Loveland Magazine TV videos are brought to you by the generous support of MoveToLoveland.com.
Now we'll hear from people in the audience who wanted to speak. The first one on the list is Sherry Hamlin.
Before you start, Sherry, just for clarification for me, are we doing 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sure.
Hello, Sherry Hamlin, 118 Candidate Drive. Good evening, members of the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the proposed new construction on Railroad Avenue. Sadly, the original buildings are gone. We cannot undo what has been done, but it remains our responsibility to ensure that what replaces them respects the integrity of our historic district. The proposal submitted by this builder is concerning in many ways. The application includes photos of buildings more than a block away, separated by a parking lot and City Hall, instead of adjacent cottage-style homes that define this part of the district. I believe this is an intentional misrepresentation meant to suggest compatibility where none exists. The reality is that this proposal fails to align with the surrounding historic structures, and the misleading photos attempt to obscure that fact. Examples of where this proposal violates the historic preservation guidelines are many. I have chosen just a couple of quotes from the guidelines as examples. Quote, "These guidelines provide a regulatory framework for ensuring that new construction occurs in a manner that preserves and protects the integrity of downtown Loveland's historic context." End quote. New quote. "New construction should be influenced by and designed to be consistent with the surrounding context." End quote. "This proposal disrupts the traditional rhythm of single-family cottages with a multi-unit complex. At 41.4 feet tall," I'm going to repeat that because it's hard to get your head wrapped around, 41.4 feet tall, this three-story structure overwhelms the neighboring cottages. The Historic Preservation and Planning Commission guidelines emphasize scale and consistency, yet this design ignores that principle entirely. Loveland has become a destination. We're all very familiar with the parking challenges that have occurred in the past. This proposal eliminates public parking spaces for both residents and visitors to Nisbet Park, bike trail, and local businesses. In recent memory, there have been at least 5 instances where developers have requested variances to guidelines. It has become exhausting. To this I say enough already. We deserve more creativity from developers who want to make bank off the precious gem that is Loveland. At the October 2nd, 2024 HPPC meeting, it was suggested that the builder go back to the drawing board and come up with a design that conforms with guidelines. A resident who spoke at open forum at one point looked directly at the builder with a plea and stated, "You have a chance to do something really unique." The recent plans either have not changed or have changed so insignificantly that the difference is undetectable. This shows complete disregard for this commission and for the community. When a resident provided alternative cottage-style renderings that both fit within the district and offered high-end profitability to the builder acknowledged receipt but failed to engage. This refusal to collaborate shows a disregard for the community concerns. This builder is well respected in the community. I know this because I personally chose them for a project in my own home. Despite lower cost options, I chose this builder because of their reputation for quality and integrity and my desire to support a local business when possible. That reputation is now in jeopardy. This is not about ability. This builder is fully capable of producing high-quality, historically sensitive construction. It is about willingness. Right now, maximum profit is being prioritized over preservation and community. So what is the call to action? It is not too late for this builder to withdraw this request and submit a design that respects the district's character, that could restore the trust and reputation for this builder. But if they choose not to, they should know that residents will challenge this project at every step to protect our community. This community deserves better, we demand better, and we will not stop fighting for it.
Thank you. Todd Osborne.
Todd Osborne, 1100 Sunrise Drive. Good evening, Commission members. Well, it's like deja vu all over again. And instead of demoing a historic house, it's now a replacement building that is in front of you, the Commission. First presented during the June 26, 2024 meeting and tonight. It's identical. It's the same drawing with some changes in landscape. Or comments from the June meeting were, in part one, anything built on the adjacent vacant lot should fit in with the existing homes on Railroad Avenue. And two, the proposed building would set a precedent for Railroad Avenue that would likely change the character of the street. That was an understatement. The applicant kept alluding to first street views, the rear of the buildings, and not Railroad Avenue. The general impression from the audience that night was that the proposed rendering wouldn't fly. And it should still be like a bird with a cast iron tail. It shouldn't fly. I don't see the appropriateness to the street's architecture. In fact, at last night's planning and zoning meeting, this very block was discussed for its quaintness, its peak roofs, front porches, building height, and architecture. This application lacked design to scale, indicating in part facades, windows, decoration, materials, finishes, and other features representing the proposed design. And if this even gets beyond this meeting, you still have density, lot mergers, impacts to traffic and parking, among other variances to the Board of Zoning Appeals and probably Planning and Zoning. You wish to cram 6 3 to 4 story units onto 6,530 square feet. This didn't fly for a 2-family dwelling on 5,000 square feet last night at Planning and Zoning, and this shouldn't fly tonight. The proposed rendering is vague. It shows a building that defies appropriateness for the historic block of Railroad Avenue. Perhaps behind the post office on Hill Street, but not the downtown historic district. So respectfully, I ask you, the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission, to deny the certificate of appropriateness application. Thank you.
Elizabeth Lust.
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth Lust. I live at 127 Line Avenue. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening and for your time. I am unfortunately going to shoot from the hip. I went through so many versions of what I wanted to say this evening that I ran out of time. So I want to start with myself. My house was built in the early 50s by my grandfather and my great-grandfather. My grandparents lived there. My parents lived there. I grew up in that house. I raised my daughter-in-law. She also joined me when I moved back home. I spent the majority of my childhood playing on the streets, Railroad Avenue, Taylor Street. These were my friends. At the age of 10, I can remember sitting on the front porch at 200 Railroad Avenue with friends that I made that moved to this country from Laos that resided in what is now the Wicked Pickle. Sitting on the front porch sharing an ice cream with someone from a foreign country. I married, I stayed in Loveland. I chose to raise my family. My grandkids all graduated from Loveland City Schools. I now hold 2 positions with the Loveland City School District. When they plowed down 200 Railroad Avenue, they plowed down my history and my memories. I may not be big, grand, and famous, but I've put a lot of effort into this town over the years. I was a troop leader for the Girl Scouts for multiple years. I've been a member of the Loveland Fraternal Order of Eagles for over 20. I put in countless hours of volunteering and fundraising too to help this community. So when I heard John Hill's construction company was going to tear down 200 Railroad Avenue, I stood up and talked to the people of this town. I stood up for our history. The responses that I got were not well received for their renderings that they've submitted. Our downtown historic district is special. Adding a 3 to 4 story building on this small area will just overshadow the quaintness that we have. I also had concerns when I found out that, yes, they purchased the property and then decided it was to be condemned, but yet they still allowed people to live there. I'm assuming that things like that don't happen overnight. They had to have known that the building was in such bad shape. So that leads us to tonight. The buildings in the history book that John Hill's family has shared with us are either no longer with us or they're not even close to where this proposed project is going to be built. Is this 4-story, 3-story, 4-story project going to cast shadows on the neighboring bike rental shop? They're talking about eliminating parking places to add driveways and garages, but yet they're going to give us a small amount of additional parking along the side of this building, which happens to be a right-of-way between Railroad Avenue and the new Dave Kennedy parking lot. Their renderings look nothing like the surrounding houses in the vicinity. And yes, you have an opportunity to do something great. So please consider voting down this project. Do us a favor.
Cindy Kessler.
Hello, I'm Cindy Kessler. I live at 273 East Broadway. So first of all, I know the John Hill family. I know them as a company, and they are great folks all around. Even so, as you consider the proposal for Railroad Avenue, please consider that the existing nearby structures have a small-town residential charm to them. And clustered together, they create a uniquely historical niche within the downtown area. It really is a lovely little area. And sitting right across from Nisbet Park and Bike Trail, their old-timey feel makes both of those feel more friendly, more inviting. And by default, this reflects on Loveland in a very positive way overall. the architectural character of this proposal, these townhouses, is incongruous with the existing surrounding structures. My hope is that you will guide the city to require all new buildings in that area to accurately reflect the historical character of the existing structures. To do otherwise would destroy this historic gem that, quite honestly, we are really lucky to even have existing. And regarding parking, I feel that this area would be better served by adding businesses that cater to those enjoying Nisbet Park and the bike trail in architecturally harmonious structures rather than townhouses that are out of character with this uniquely historical gem. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Barnes.
Good evening. Matt Barnes, 122 Broadway Street. I live in the brownstones that were built in 2018. Been there probably 4 years, and excuse me, kind of recognized an interest in people wanting to live in downtown Loveland. It's a vibrant community. It's easier to get around on foot than by car a lot of the summers, these days and the weekends. Our development, from what I understand, replaced a very old historical structure. We've brought, there are 8 units there, so figure 16 cars that I think that fit very nicely into the area. We all have garages that the cars are in. But I've just observed from people walking by saying, hey, if you wanted to sell, we're interested in buying, an interest in demand of living downtown. And I believe Loveland Station has a waiting list of a pretty significant amount of time to get in, so I recognize and acknowledge a shortage of housing where people really want to be. And having lived here 4 years, it is the greatest place to live. I love being able to walk. The car rarely comes out of the garage. So I'd urge you to consider, the appropriateness of it and consider the need for what I see as a resident of downtown Loveland for additional housing options.
Thank you. Jeff Bova.
Hi, thank you for your time. Jeff Bova, 1584 Fay Road. Certainly respect all the opinions with regards to Loveland. A little history on us, our family. We lived in Miami Trails some 23 years ago when the only thing in Loveland was, well, one of the only things was Paxton's. Things change, and I know that's hard, and I hear and respect what everyone's talking about. But we moved away. Work took us to New Jersey, unfortunately, but we're happy to be back. And Loveland's changed so much, and it may be because of some of you, as well as you. I don't know that we ever came down. Every now and then we come down to Paxton's, but it's thriving. The number of restaurants, to Matt's point, the people that want to live down there. I hear the historical concerns. I just don't know if I were moving back to Loveland, we've been back for a couple of years, would I buy a cottage that had 275 neighbors parking and walking? I respectfully disagree. I think it's a buffer between the historic area of the cottages. I'm glad to hear the respect for John and Ben and the quality of work that he does, because there's a lot of negativity. So thank you for acknowledging that, because he's not going to build anything that is an eyesore at least. I appreciate, again, the location maybe isn't ideal. You asked him to change it, I don't know who would want that. We wouldn't. We certainly wouldn't want a cottage just so it felt historical with all of the hustle and bustle that's going around there. When we have friends that come see us from Jersey, I think it's important for you to know, they love downtown Loveland. They love it. One is actually one friend's wife is trying to convince her husband to move down and was curious about the rooftops that are now, like, are there any for sale? They do. I know history's a tough word. Old can mean historic and cannot mean historic. But I would ask that I'm in support of it. Location-wise, I think it will fit. It matches the other buildings that are there. This panel approved the monkey bar that's going in. So I wanted to certainly talk to the positiveness that's come out of the meeting and respect the viewpoints. But my viewpoint is that I just don't see, I don't see another house that was there being that attractive to live. Deeper down the street, sure, but not where that one currently was. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Freeman.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Freeman, 173 Brushwood Drive. It's entirely aggravating to be appearing before this commission again to address the same ridiculous issue. We have a developer who bought a home with significant historical value, which was located in the historic district, who refused to take responsibility to maintain the home and then begged for permission to destroy said home, claiming he couldn't afford to maintain it. Unfortunately, the home has been destroyed, and the irresponsible property owner wants to build a cookie-cutter apartment complex, which in no way matches the architecture of the homes on Railroad Avenue and is outside the scope of our community master plan. The property owner is a respected builder in the Loveland community, and those to whom much is given, much is expected. This builder can and should build a single-family home in keeping with the parameters of the historic district and the community master plan. And this commission should demand that he do it.
Thank you. Dear Hazelbaker. Sorry.
Good evening, my name is Deidre Hazelbaker, and I live at 101 Ash Street. I'm here tonight because residents like me keep showing up, because we're not being heard. Despite the clear public feedback, the community outcry, and even after the commission had raised concerns on the first round about looking at meeting the changes to this project because it does not fit. I want to be clear, this isn't about stopping all the development. It's about holding development in a historic district to the standards and the guidelines the city already put in place to protect Loveland's character. I had modified my speeches as Ben was talking because he asked for specifics. And so I did really hurry to look at those specifics. So Loveland Code Ordinances 151.05 makes it clear that the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission has the authority to ensure compatibility of new construction with nearby contributing structures. The Loveland Downtown Design Guides adopted in 2020 state on page 22 that the size, massing, and scale of new buildings should reflect the existing historic buildings within their immediate context. Page 23 further states that new construction should respect the established setbacks, roof lines, and building heights of the neighboring structures. These guidelines were created for exactly this reason, so a street like Railroad Avenue could maintain its charm and identity. Even as development happens, this project ignores those guidelines completely. Many have already talked about the height and the 3-story structure, which is widely out of scale within the cottages immediately next door and across Nisbet Park. The design lacks any reference to the architectural styles that define Railroad's historic charm. We've already talked that it removes the public parking, and it does not maintain pedestrian-friendly amenities and public access. The view from Nisbet Park. Nisbet Park is one of Loveland's most visited public spaces, a place where people experience the charm of downtown firsthand. Once this oversized project takes over that view, it's gone forever. This is not creativity or thoughtfulness. I fully support property rights, and I welcome creative and thoughtful development. I too have tried to work and provide inspiration to the developer to show what the community is wanting. Real creativity works with the site's existing strengths and its character. It doesn't bulldoze over them. Tonight, I'm asking you to vote to deny this request, not because the community doesn't want progress, but because the proposal directly conflicts with the guidelines you are charged to uphold. If this is approved, it sends a message that our design standards only matter when convenient, and that developers can push until communities wear down. I want to also thank you for considering the support of the overlay district at recommendation in planning and zoning last night. That is a positive step forward, but it only works if projects like this, which are clearly violating our own standards, are stopped until real protections are put in place. We lost 200 Railway because the historical significance was ignored when it could have saved that building. Let's not lose the rest of what makes this street special. Do the right thing, deny this request, and uphold the very guidelines that you are here to enforce. Now I have about 1:30 left, and Ben Hill had said social media was being negative, and that the people that he talked to were positive. That is being in your own echo chamber. I'm going to read from Loveland magazine, which has a public, you can go look them yourself, the comments there. Yuck. They really need to stop with these oversized buildings in the downtown area. This is not good for Loveland. These buildings are awful. It's a shame they don't want to build standalone houses that are craftsman or cottage style. I understand it would likely be fewer units, but I'm certain they would sell for a high price point, and they would make a ridiculous amount of money off of them anyway. Disrespectful, frustrating. Why can't the facade, at the very least, look more historic? The last thing we need is another monstrosity like the ones across the street to whittle away at the little charm that remains downtown. Agreed, those are so generic, do not fit at all. Really wish for standalone cottage style. Disappointing if these get approved. I feel like they're packing people in like sardines. Downtown Loveland traffic is so much worse now with all the condos and apartments. I miss historic hometown feel of Loveland. It makes me so sad. Not in favor of this. These do not all blend with the surrounding homes and businesses. I have to ask, is anyone in favor of this? We need good stewardship of development. This isn't it. Still a big no. 3 stories is too much. The buildings don't blend with look and feel of this area. Absolutely hope this doesn't, and I will follow this also.
Thank you. And the last one is Katie Colson.
Good evening, Katie Colson, 181 Bears Run Drive. I come to you tonight to speak to the community and the commission as a 20-year resident of Loveland, a founding member of the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission, and a contributor to the published guidelines. As such, I want to make very clear this project is a residential project, it is not a commercial project, and as such, it needs to follow the guidelines set forth for a residential project, not a commercial project. They are here today seeking a certificate of appropriateness, and I would like to point out a few reasons why I believe, based upon the guidelines, this project does not comply. So on page 26, it's about roof cornices and eaves, and I just want to point out they're called cornices, not decorative crown molding.